And good evening, Lincoln County. Thank you for being with us this evening. We are going to begin our Lincoln County Wildfire Readiness presentation. This will be Module 2, Evacuating with Animals, Pets, and Livestock. This evening with us, our guest will be Laura Ireland, our Director of Animal Services. So this is one of a 6-set series of wildfire readiness presentations. What we did is took our original 2-hour presentation and broke it up into 6 individual modules. These modules are being recorded as well as live streamed with 2 presentations being offered for each one. You can go back to our website and view those presentation slides or review the recording at any time that you would like to. For those of you that are attending this evening, you have an opportunity to add questions directly to the chat box, and we will monitor those and answer them as we go. Or at the end of this presentation, we have an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have. So to start off with this evening, evacuating with animals. And our overview is our administrative brief and our sponsors. A little overview of Lincoln County Animal Services, pre-event preparedness and evacuating with pets, pre-event preparedness and evacuating with large animals and livestock, after a fire, animals and wildfire smoke, and additional resources, and then an opportunity for questions. So, thinking about who our wildfire advocates are and how emergencies start. Most all emergencies start with a call to our 911 dispatchers, who then dispatch fire, law enforcement, and EMS services to the scene to assist those individuals that have been affected. Sometimes those individuals are transported to higher level of health care to our local hospitals to receive that care. Then our public works and our utility partners and road departments then restore the environment back to the condition that it was before the event. Public health, just as what is done in this past year with COVID, then assists us with any public health emergencies or air quality or water quality issues that we may have due to the disaster. Our elected officials are very important as they ensure state and federal resources are made available to us upon request. Our emergency operations centers at the city, county, and tribal level, then coordinate those resources that are needed at the scene level and then to state and federal assets. So our community presentation sponsors, your Lincoln County Fire Defense Board, your Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, each of your fire districts, Oregon Department of Forestry, Lincoln County Public Health, the American Red Cross, Oregon State University Extension Service, Oregon Coast Community College, and our Oregon State Financial Regulation with their consumer and business services. So our objective for these wildfire presentations is strengthening your knowledge of our local wildfire risk and your role in preparedness, response, and recovery. So Lincoln County Animal Services with our guest director, Laura Ireland of Animal Services.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us about this very important topic. We are so happy that people in our community are thinking about and preparing for disasters and understanding that animals that they care for need to be part of their planning. And what we have found, through this last disaster is we learned quite a bit. So definitely want to let you know a little bit about our role in responding to disaster, what we can do to provide services to our community, ways that you can help make sure that your pets and animals are taken care of, and hopefully give you some great advice and a little bit of reassurance that you can make sure that you can be prepared and know that and feel confident to be able to respond in an event of any sort of disaster. Lincoln County Animal Services is part of the Sheriff's Office. We work really closely in partnership with emergency management. It's been great that we've been able to train with everyone, with SAR, with emergency management, with everyone that will be responding in disasters. And we have 6 staff at the Lincoln County Animal Shelter. We are all trained in FEMA and disaster response. And there are 3 animal services deputies who are dispatched through patrol. And they have done extensive training in all sorts of responses, but also in disasters. And they were definitely critical in responding to the Echo Mountain fire They were behind the scenes for 10 days behind the evacuation lines, responding to reports of animals left behind over at the animal shelter. We were quickly able to set up a lost and found database where people could immediately let us know what animals were left behind. They could also let us know what animals, where to find them, how to get in to their homes. And then we were also able to use that information to reunite people as others were going in and families were going back in. So it was very helpful to be able to be part of the sheriff's office and make sure that we had really unified services and response for the animals that were up in Otis. We, a few years ago, purchased an emergency response trailer. We have lots of ideas of ways that we can use it, but we are able to pull this trailer into areas to help evacuate animals, and most importantly, be able to distribute supplies and those kennels that are in there. We can also set up as a mobile command center. So can use that for a lot of different things. And it's been incredibly helpful as we have gone through quite a few different things over the animal shelter, needing to set up emergency and temporary sheltering. So we have 40 emergency kennels. Those kennels can also be removed, and we have a set to replace. And we use a lot of those in our temporary shelter right now as well. We have a big cache of pet supplies, bowls, leashes, ID bands, all sorts of things that we can immediately get to animals who have been evacuated with their people. And that is usually our very first response, is getting supplies to people who are not able to take them with them. And we were so fortunate in our community too to have a lot of people that helped resupply all those caches of kennels, and people were very responsive to anything that we needed with immediate response during the fires, and we know that that will continue in the future, and that is amazing. We have great transport partnerships with shelters throughout the entire state, and we rely on each other all the time for all sorts of different reasons. But even the day that the fire started, we were able to reach out to Oregon Humane Society, and they cleared our entire shelter of all the animals that were in our care that we knew that we had ownership of, so we could make room for animals that needed to come in for emergency boarding, or for ones that we need to immediately evacuate out of the Echo Mountain fire locations. And throughout the next month, Cat Adoption Team, Green Hill, and Heartland Humane Society were incredibly helpful in terms of being able to make space and make sure that we could care for the animals that we needed to in Lincoln County. We do have MOUs with ASPCA and Code 3, their national animal disaster response organizations, or they have parts of what their mission is to respond to all sorts of disasters, cruelty cases, large-scale seizures, and we've been able to rely on them and HSUS in the past for those services, and we are able to be able to call on them in the future as well. We do know in the event of a Cascadia tsunami or earthquake that they're going to be concentrating probably in some other more high population areas, but they have great resources. We do training with them and able to respond for them as well. We were able to utilize the county commons for our large animal disaster response and set up emergency boarding there for horses, chickens, rabbits, but had space for pigs and goats and kind of anybody that needed an emergency space. And in the event that it is available, we're able to do that as well. And we're hoping that when we're able to build our new shelter, that we'll have services and facilities that we can help care for large animals on site next to the animal shelter as well. And a lot of what I do is I assist community members and planning groups who are looking at what is going to happen in the event of emergency, how they can prepare, what's going to happen when people go to evacuation sites and they bring their animals, what sort of resources do they need, and how can they safely help care for people in the event of a disaster. So those are the services that we have, and you can always visit our website as well. We try to have a lot of these resources on our website, and you can always call us if there's anything that we can do if you have questions. So a big topic is the pre-event preparedness and evacuating with your pets. And we over at the animal shelter and at emergency services or emergency management have these brochures that are available for you. They're also online, and FEMA has a lot of great disaster preparedness brochures and videos. So we're going to start off with watching just kind of an overview of things that you can do to help make sure that you're preparing for your whole family.
Taking care of pets can be one of the most rewarding jobs of everyday life. Yet continuing that care following an emergency can be a monumental task. During disasters like a hurricane or a forest fire, hundreds of thousands of livestock, pets, and horses can become displaced and abandoned. The AVMA would like to remind all horse, livestock, and pet owners that no family disaster plan is complete without including your pets and all of your animals. Disaster plans don't have to be complicated. In fact, the best disaster plans keep it simple. For example, it's important to have a pet carrier like this, not only for transportation of your pet, but also potentially to use as temporary housing. Be sure to get a pet carrier that is large enough for your dog or cat to stay in comfortably for a few days. If you evacuate to a shelter, your pet will have to spend most of its time in this crate. If you're a cat owner, you'll require a carrier large enough to hold a small litter box. Making a temporary litter box is easy. All you need is a small cardboard box, plastic bags, and some litter. One of the best ways to make sure that you're prepared for your animal in a disaster is to create a disaster preparedness kit. You'll want to include food, at least a week's worth, fresh water, any medication your animal is on, and a current prescription, as well as any health or veterinary medical records. For example, if you have a horse, you'll want to include registration papers and any Coggins papers or health certificates. You may also want to, for identification purposes, include a recent photograph of you and your animal. No disaster preparedness kit is complete without a list of contacts and phone numbers. You'll have decided in advance where you may evacuate with your animals. Have a list for that area that includes pet-friendly hotels, friends and relatives who may be able to house you, and a contact for a veterinarian as well. Perhaps the most important element of a disaster preparedness plan is proper identification for your pet. During an evacuation, the likelihood of being separated from your animal is much higher, and proper identification is the only way to ensure you will be reunited. You'll want to have an ID tag that has not only your name and cell number, but also the name and number of a friend or relative who lives outside of your immediate area. If you find yourself in an evacuation situation without identification tags for your animal, you can use a luggage ID tag attached to your pet's collar. Proper identification is also extremely important for horse owners. You can write your contact information on a luggage tag and braid it into your horse's mane or attach it to their halter. If you have a livestock marking pencil, you can write your contact information on the side of your horse. Microchip identification is commonly used in dogs, cats, and horses. Even if you have an ID tag on your animal, if the animal loses that tag, now they're without identification. Microchips are placed just below the skin and read with a scanner. Many pets have been found hundreds of miles from home after months of disappearance and reunited with their families because of microchip identification. Evacuating horses or livestock in a disaster situation often requires a more effective disaster plan. You'll need a contact list including hay and feed distributors and additional stabling facilities to evacuate to. Temporary stables have actually been established in prior disasters in parking lots. You'll need to contact your state veterinary medical association or state veterinarian's office to learn of these temporary sheltering situations. Make sure you have halters and lead ropes for every horse you own and that you have access to a horse or livestock trailer. It may be a good idea to form an emergency network of local farms and stables in your area who may be contacted to assist you in case of an emergency evacuation. And finally, in any disaster situation, it's important that you know where you're going to go and how you're going to take your animals with you. So make sure you plan ahead. The AVMA has additional resources on our website for disaster preparedness and planning, including our Saving the Whole Family brochure. This and more are available at www.avma.org.
Great. So that's just a great little overview, and just wanted to go through some lessons learned that we found out with the Echo Mountain Fire and wanted to be able to pass along, and some things that are just really more about our local community. And of course, again, yes, having a caller ID and microchip is incredibly important. You can talk to any of your veterinarians about getting a microchip. We also microchip over at the animal shelter. You can make an appointment and it's only $20, and that includes lifetime registration. And that is really also a very important thing to do, is remember that once your chip is implanted, you want to make sure it's registered to you and has all of your contact information. It's very important to make sure that you update that whenever you move. And the best thing to do, of course, have your address and phone number, but make sure your email is on that as well. That it seems to be something that is tied to you much longer than your address. And so that is incredibly important. And again, making sure that there's emergency contact on your microchip that is outside of the area. And for dogs, it is required to be, it's the law to have your dogs licensed. It's optional for cats, but we certainly, think that that's important as well. You can license through the animal shelter. We have also partnered with an online company called DocuPet, and that also is a great way to make sure that you have a tag that is on your pet. And they have lots of really cute tags you can customize as well. Make sure your animals are altered and up to date on vaccinations. So if they do end up in a commingled situation, either in a shelter or they are going to be around other animals, it's really great to make sure that they are going to be as safe as possible and that they don't spread other communicable diseases to other pets or people. And what we also found out too is people were had especially their cats in travel carriers, and they ended up having to be in there for 1, 2 or 3 days at a time. And so having also a backup of a crate, or having something that you can expand, just be prepared that it's going to be a little bit of time. And even if you end up at a hotel, having a safe space for them to be is very important. And making sure your animals are used to being around other animals and people helps them in so many ways, whether you're sheltering with them, needing to be around lots of other people, or in the event that somebody's going to need to go into your home to get your animals, having them be socialized is going to make everybody's lives so much easier. Having a plan, kind of recognizing American Red Cross in general, they do not allow pets except for certified service dogs. They try in events that they can to be accommodating as much as possible. It's not good to plan on it, but know that they are trying to be as helpful as they can, especially in our community. And we're very lucky that we were able to come up with a solution for those who evacuated last fall, where they were able to find a spot where they could keep animals with, pets with their people. And we were also involved in that and making sure that everybody had safe crates on all the supplies that they needed for the time that they were in the shelter. So we all work really closely together to really have a good unified response. But it's always good to have friends or family members where you think you can stay. Most, pet-friendly hotels, of course, will allow pets. And it's been great in disaster responses too, that a lot of hotels have expanded their pet policies, knowing that it's an emergency. But again, don't plan on it, but that sometimes is a possibility. Always want to look to friends and neighbors who can help out in case you're not home, and whether it's you're at work or on a day trip to the valley, just knowing how people can get into your home if you're not there and what they can do. And again, making sure your pets are very comfortable with those people is incredibly important. Making sure pets don't just see a carrier when you're going to the vet, and other times it's stressful for them. It wants to be a place that they also think is happy and fun to be in. So giving them treats in there, having it out and about, so it's familiar to them and kind of be a little den for them is helpful. So it's not a scramble during those times. And there are lots of different ideas of what to do in the event you can't get your animal in a carrier, or you can't find a carrier, or it's shoved up in the top of the garage and you're not going to get to it. You can use pillowcases, laundry baskets, Tupperware bins. In the event you just need to get them out, just having a safe, secure carrier for them, you can kind of be crafty with that as well. What we found was also incredibly helpful was having a hide-a-key. There were a lot of houses that were still standing and fine up in behind the evacuation zone, but it wasn't safe for people to go back yet. And what animal services deputies were able to do was get information about how to get into people's homes, or at least, meet up with them to get a key, but then they have to meet up again to get their key back. And so if there's a way that you can have either a key code or some sort of lock or other access that you can let first responders know how to access your property in the event that they need to do that is very helpful. And the alert stickers you can get from either fire stations. We have them at the animal shelter as well. It lets first responders know how many animals you have inside, which is good to know when it's smoky or they're in there in an emergency, who they're looking for. And it's great to practice because you never know how it's going to go, how long it's going to take, where you'll actually go, what it really means to make sure you have everything that you need. You can check off your list, and the more that everyone in the family is familiar with what to do and where you're going to go, the better. We put this together as more initially in the times of COVID, but we also found that it was very helpful for the fires and just in general to have, this is what we would like to know over at the animal shelter if we end up needing to care for your pet in any sort of emergency. And it also can be if you have a medical emergency and your animals are left behind, you get in a car accident and your pets are with you, or left behind at home with no one to care for them in the short term. And even, we provide this sort of care when people are arrested and need a spot for their animals to go. So you can find this form on our website, lincolncountyanimalshelter.org. And we initially said, have it on your refrigerator. During those at first, few months last year, first responders knew where to look for that. But just keeping it in your disaster kit or near where you have your pet's food bowls, someplace where we can find it, that'd be very helpful. And also, this is information that you can just give to the animal shelter now, and we can scan it and have it attached to your record for your pet. And so if for any reason they come in an emergency, we know there's different caregivers that we can contact right away, and we love that. So this just online, you can find lots of different, lists that for disaster kits for dogs and cats. There's pre-made ones that are easy to build off of that have some initial supplies. Again, what we found with the animals who are in carriers for a long time, we loved finding this little zippy cat carrier. It's great for small dogs and for cats. It gives you more space to have a spot for them to potty, a spot for them to rest, a spot for them to have food and water, and still be safe and secure and easy to transport. So that was pretty fun. And again, having first aid, there's lots of different resources online about how to put together first aid kit. And there's some great little classes too that you can learn just basic pet first aid, which is important for any pet owner. Then just very quickly, there's special considerations. When we responded up in Otis, there were, of course, dogs and a lot of cats, a lot of outdoor community cats, birds, frogs, koi fish, peacocks, goats, pigs, rabbits, homing pigeons. So pretty much any pet that you could have, they were up in Otis. And of course, animal services deputies were great at helping take care of them. People were evacuating with them. We ended up with birds just like this and then emergency boarding over at the animal shelter. But there's just ideas that you can find too about how to have identification on them. What are some special considerations that you have if you're going to be traveling or caring for your pets, for an extended period of time in a new environment? Again, if reptiles, the most important thing for them is making sure they have a good heat source, and then also secure housing for them. And kind of a neat little trick for any animal that normally requires fresh produce, baby food and canned vegetables are also a great alternative that you can usually find in a disaster response. Small animals, having, little travel carriers is great. Again, want to make sure that they have enough space if you're going to be around for quite some time. And with all of these animals, having some sort of carrier, a cover for the carrier, towel, blanket, whatnot, it makes life for all of them that much happier. So again, with being able to evacuate with them, you want to have your carriers handy. You want to be able to load up your backpack or Tupperware container that has all the stuff immediately, get them into the car. It would be the ideal situation. But again, recognize there may be disasters where you're not be able to have them in a car with you. So making sure that they're secure and on a leash in a carrier is safest for everyone. As always, make sure you turn off your electricity, water main, or gas, and lock up and get out. If you have no choice but to leave them behind, or if for some reason you can have someone else come over and help them, but aren't able to actually get out with them, you want to make sure that if they have to be confined outside, that they have kind of a safe shed, some sort of area with some shelter, access to some food and water, make sure they're not chained. It's very sad to see what happens in a flooding situation in those environments. If they're able to be inside, make sure they're in a room, best without windows, adequate ventilation. If you have a utility room, laundry room, some sort of space in the garage or bathroom, having them have some mobility is important. Make sure you leave fresh food and water. You can open a little faucet to have drip. You can fill a bathtub. Just making sure that they have access to those the immediate things that they need is really important. And again, want to say having a hide key for responders or neighbors or somebody who can get into your house safely is a super important thing to do. So then of course, evacuating with large animals, livestock, farm animals is a whole nother beast. And it's a lot more difficult to be able to get out quickly with all those animals and with such large animals. Again, a great thing to practice. A lot of the fires that happen in barns are because of what happens internally with your own barn. And so having a fire safety checklist that you can go through to make sure it's as safe as possible is incredibly important. And of course, having a defensible space around your barn in the event of your own fire or wildfire that comes through, it really helps protect all of your property to have all of that kind of brush cleared away, and so that defensible space is there. And a neat little a tip for inside your barn, knowing that's going to be smoky and hard to see, having all of your handles painted with reflective paint makes it a lot easier for you, and especially first responders or other people coming through who aren't familiar with your space, to know where all of those handles and are to help get their animals out. Again, with the preparedness kit, a lot of ideas in terms of looking online. You know what your animal's going to need for the next couple days, or first few days, up to a week to 2 weeks if you have to evacuate. Really important to think about, especially with fires, is that nylon melts really quickly and really easily. And so with the halters, you want to have cotton or leather. Be careful of metal buckles; those get really hot, really quickly as well. And blankets, it's actually better to take blankets off. Some people have kept blankets on thinking that'll help protect from sparks, but unfortunately it melts very easily and causes a lot of skin damage, as you can imagine. Again, having animal ID, microchip. A lot of people don't think of microchips for horses. So you can definitely do that, and having ID on any sort of ID is really important. And I should say too, kind of a lesson learned, not in our fire situation so much, but we've seen in fires in California, is that a lot of animals look quite different after they've experienced going through a fire. And so somewhat your horse, but mostly, your fluffy dogs and cats, if their skin, or especially their fur, is singed, their coloring is going to be different. A lot of it's going to be different. And so having that microchip is the most important way that we can help reunite you. And having multiple options is very important when you have livestock, because roads can be closed, where you think you can go, and depending on the direction that the wind is blowing, uh, and if it's a close, a close in event versus where, if you want to be super prepared to get out as soon as possible. And that's what we really found in, the Otis fire as well. How quickly it became an emergency, trying to get, as the wind shifted and started blowing closer into Lincoln City. And so that level 1 to level 3 happened really fast. And if you have quite a few animals, it's really the best to do is to try to prepare, get all of your animals loaded up and be ready to go as soon as possible. Because when they say go, is not really the time to start trying to load everybody up, especially as you're panicking, your animals are panicking. If they're, getting out of a smoky barn, a lot of them try to go back in. So you really want to make sure those gates and barn doors are shut to prevent reentry, and you have all of things that's ready to go. And also remember, if you do need to leave your animals behind, make sure that they're in a pre-selected, very cleared area. Don't rely on kind of automatic watering systems, because a lot of times power goes out during those times, which was what's awesome up in the Otis response too, is right away for both pets and livestock, feeding stations were put up. Animals were, all of the feeding stations um, and in particular areas, and the firefighters are going through with their hoses and filling up water troughs. So there's a lot of people who are going to be there that are going to be try to get them out as soon as possible. They're going to try to, be there to be able to do everything that they can. But you have to understand, human life is going to be their first priority, but they will do everything that they can, especially during that time and in when you can't be there, to make sure that they're cared for. So after a disaster, there are going to be a lot of animals who are displaced. There will be a lot of animals who are stressed out and kind of responding a lot as people are. And so again, making sure that your pets are leashed, are safe with you, and understand that everything's going to be a little bit discombobulated for everyone for some time is is good. And just be really careful of the environment with any sort of environmental hazards, with power lines that are down. In the event of flooding, that water is not what you want to be wading through, and certainly not what you want your animals drinking. There's lots of, you know, diseases and parasites and all sorts of things that are kind of nasty in there too. And you are going to see some animals that were left behind, most likely, that were able to escape or are out and about, or especially up in Otis, we saw a lot of community cats. And you just want to be careful when approaching a strange animal, and then also just understand that any animal that is even normally friendly, they could be just stressed out. Injury, any sort of pain is going to create kind of an aggressive response for a lot of animals. If you see an animal out and about, please, and they, if they feel super friendly, they're jumping in your car and you have a way to get them to the shelter, that's awesome. But if you don't have a way to get them to us, or it doesn't feel safe, just having a picture and contacting us over at the animal shelter is great for us to be able to send animal services to go find them, try to match them up with lost reports, and be able to get them back home. And if you come across a deceased animal, it is actually, we would love it if you could take a picture. And again, just let us know. Even if it's really sad, a lot of pet owners really appreciate having that closure. And just wild animals, what we see, a lot, and it didn't happen so much up in our area, but we saw a lot of it in California and through other wildfires and in other rural areas, is wild animals are going to be out and about. trying to pass through, they're trying to be safe, they're trying to get away from the smoke, and find safe refuge as well. So if you're able to put some water, fresh water out for passing through wildlife, that's amazing. But at very least, just know that they're going to be passing through, and just let them be. Then, for all of your pets, just as it is for you, the wildfire smoke, it's hard to breathe. There's ash. So just, restrict their time outside, really short potty walks. If you see any of these symptoms that make it look like they might have, damage to their respiratory system or their eyes, just make sure you consult a veterinarian as soon as possible. Keep them in, keep windows shut, and just don't push it till everybody feels, if it's safe, feels safe for you, it'll feel safer for your animals. So for animals left behind, how we responded, in what, again, everybody's going to be there to work together to try to rescue as many animals as they can. Firefighters will be, could possibly be cutting open fences. It's always it's a hard thing to know what to do. Is you want to keep them contained, but also want to give them a chance to be safe. So it's great that there are some amazing trainings that we cross-train. Animal services has been cross-training with firefighters, and firefighters with animal services, and how we all can all work together. And usually the firefighters and first responders are in there with animal services close behind as soon as it's safe. And it's great to contact the animal shelter if they're, in the event anything happens in our county. We are going to be front lines trying to collect as much information to make sure that we can reunite animals as quickly as possible. We worked very amazingly closely with all the veterinarians, but especially when the Echo Mountain Complex fire, the two, Ocean Lake Veterinary Clinic and Lincoln City Animal Clinic were amazing in bringing in animals and getting them treated right away. So if you want to volunteer, we love that, but you also want to make sure that we are coordinating with animal services so everybody knows what to do, and we can really have one place where pet owners who are frantic to be able to be reunited, if we can have one unified front of where they can be, that is going to be incredibly helpful for our community. And if anything, donating to recovery efforts directed to the animal shelter or veterinarians is incredibly helpful. Again, because of the great community that we had, we were able to treat all the animals that needed emergency care. We were able to get resources and supplies to all the animals that needed them, and our coffers have been refilled. So we're not excited for the next one in any event. Maybe hopefully won't be a next one, but in the event that there is, we are ready to be able to help the community. Lots of great resources. These are some of the organizations that are, primarily involved with being able to get information out to community members. Lincoln County Animal Shelter. Our website is lincolncountyanimalshelter.org. We do have a preparedness site. Oregon Veterinary Medical Association has great stuff. So as you go through, as this is out, if you're watching this later, you can click on these links and they'll get you to a lot of the great information. And I don't think we're going to watch this video tonight, but again, this is another just kind of reminder of how important it is to make sure that you include animals in your preparedness, and yeah, save all of the members of the family in the event of a disaster. So if you have any questions, this is how you can reach Jenny over at Emergency Manager, and her email and website. That's how you can reach me, my email, and how to get over to the website. And both of us are very dedicated to making sure that everyone's prepared and ready.
Thank you very much, Laura. And we'll just pause a quick moment here while I check to see if there are any any questions for us this evening, and it doesn't appear so. So again, thank you to our guest speaker tonight. And as Laura indicated, throughout the entire document, all of the images and graphics that you see, you can click on those and they will take you to those individual resources so that you can get that access to that additional information. So we're going to leave you this evening with a video from our local public safety officials. Our sheriff and the Fire Defense Board has prepared for you a public safety video for this season. So we'll get that running, and when we're done, we'll conclude this webinar. And thank you very much for joining us.
Wildfire can and does happen here, and we all need to prepare for it. And that's probably the biggest thing to the public is be aware. Be aware, be prepared, know what happens around you, know what happens in the community. Listen to local radio, local media, sign up for Lincoln Alerts so that you have the most time, the best chance of getting early notification if we need to evacuate. I think something the general public, unless they've been through this, never really fully appreciates is how fast it spreads and how it can go from nothing to a firefighter or a sheriff's deputy knocking on your door saying, "Get out now." Sometimes, while we have a great system and we have the ready, set, go, sometimes it goes straight to go. I mean, that's just the reality because of how fast these fires spread. And so the time to start thinking about what do I do in a wildfire isn't when somebody's knocking on your door. That's probably the biggest lesson, I think. The time to start thinking about it, to start planning with your family, to know what you're going to do is really now. And that's why we're doing these messages, because we want people to think about this now, because in August, in September, you should already know what you're going to do.
Yeah, Lincoln Alert should be very much a priority in what they're preparing for their plans. It's a direct communication. We heard a lot of things. Communication wasn't good or wasn't acceptable during this last event, and we know that Lincoln Alerts is one of the things that continued to work and was providing information, timely information, to all the residents in the area. And one of the things that residents can do is make sure that their Lincoln Alerts is up to date, that they have their phone numbers in properly, that their cell phones are in there. If you want to know about a neighbor or family member around, you can put their address in, and there's lots of tools and things you can do to be alerted in the event of not just a wildfire, but any event, any emergency event that goes on. It's an excellent tool, and that's one of the first priorities citizens should do is have that all up to date.
So your personal preparedness is have a plan of what to do if you have to evacuate. And this can be applied not just to fire season, but also if we have other natural disasters that come on. Pay attention to what's going on, know when those alerts come out, be part of and subscribe to the Lincoln Alert system, and make sure that you have, if you were to walk into your house and say, I've got 5 minutes to grab my most essential items, what would I take? What would be important? If you're at a level 1 or a level 2 evacuation for a wildland fire, have those things already gathered up and in your car. Have your birth certificates, your important documents, your computers, anything that you say, I can't live without this. Have that stuff at the door ready to go or in your car ready to go.
I'm just really proud to be part of this community and part of the response that goes into it between the county, between the cities, the different fire districts. It goes all hand in hand, and it's a very collaborative approach to these disasters. And it's also because of, we're prepared well. Jenny Damaris, our county emergency manager, prepares us every year, prepares the community as we're doing here with information, but it's working together. That's the only way that we'll succeed, and we do very well at it.
Visit Lincoln County's website to view the 2021 Wildfire Readiness Presentation Schedule. These are live events that you can attend via Zoom and ask questions, or you can watch them live streamed on YouTube. There are 6 subject matter areas and 1 event per each fire district. So if you can't make it in person, rest assured we will archive these online for you to review. When you get to the website, just use the search tool or look for the text that says Wildfire Readiness Presentations. Thank you.